Joining us today for Primetime Local News is Tyler McMurtry with SGI. Thanks so much for once again joining us. We're speaking about this month's Traffic Spotlight and how we're focusing on safety travel on rural roads. Could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, when you live in Saskatchewan or Alberta, driving on rural roads, gravel roads is kind of a part of life. They connect many of our communities. They're a very important part of our roadway infrastructure. One of the things that people have to remember, though, even if they've been driving on them for some time, is that these roads present additional and different challenges to drivers than driving on a paved stretch of highway or a city street. And so that's something that we're asking people to remember with the August Traffic Safety Spotlight.
How many collisions would you say on average there are each year when it comes to accidents on rural roads?
More than 3,000, actually more than 3,300 on average every year here in Saskatchewan. And that's based on the last 5 years of traffic safety statistics. Now, many of those collisions do not result in an injury or a fatality, but far too many of them do. We see an average of 514 people injured and 25 people killed in collisions on rural roads. And when it comes to the fatalities, unfortunately, half of those involve impairment.
Now, would SGI say that they have seen more impaired drivers and distracted driving when it comes to drivers on rural roads compared to being on busy highways?
Well, particularly when it comes to impaired driving, the numbers of fatalities, the proportion of fatalities overall on rural roads is higher. And that is something that we really want to address. The idea that, oh, I can have a number of drinks and then take a quiet, less traveled back road home and I'll be okay and I won't get caught by the police. It shouldn't be about not getting caught. It should be about not getting killed. And as I said, when half of the collisions on, or half of the collision related fatalities on rural roads involve alcohol, that's a higher proportion than what we see on city streets and provincial highways. The other thing that people have to be aware of is that in fact, most of those collision fatalities on rural roads that are related to impaired driving, they're single vehicle rollovers. So it's not anybody else's fault. There's not another driver involved. It's that driver made a decision to drive impaired and it cost them their life. And so when we talk about safe driving on rural roads, we talk about a number of different things that all drivers should do: slow down, stay back, watch out for those flying stone chips. Of course, only pass when it's safe to do so. But really, one of the most important things you can do to keep yourself safe is drive sober.
And could you expand a bit on what some of the safety tips are that SGI wants to give drivers for rural roads when it comes to this month's Traffic Safety Spotlight?
Sure. So I touched on them a little bit. Generally speaking, those gravel roads, they have lower speed limits than a provincial highway. In Saskatchewan, it's 80 kilometers per hour if it's not posted. Otherwise, you have to obey the posted speed limit. So slowing down, because even the best maintained gravel roads may have some rough spots, or maybe there was some rainfall or something like that further compromises your traction. You're going to need more room to slow down if something happens. So that's why we say slow down, and also give yourself plenty of following distance behind any other vehicles on the road. Normally on a regular paved stretch of highway, we'd recommend 3 to 4 seconds. On a rural road, you should stretch that out to 6 seconds, following 6 seconds behind. It'll help you avoid getting stone chips in your windshield, but also give you more visibility and more time to react and stop if you need. The other thing that people need to be aware of, you touched on distracted driving. Very important to remain undistracted on rural roads. There's differences in the terrain. There might be curves that you're not expecting. There's also more encounters with wildlife and farm equipment on rural roads, and plus you have less room to work with. There's not shoulders, so that's something that you're dealing with. Super important to keep your eyes on the road, off your phone or off anything else in your vehicle that may distract you.
For drivers that get into these situations, who can they call to help out since most rural roads are farther from major centers?
So one of the things that we did today was we brought in STARS Air Ambulance for the launch of this, and so they respond to a lot of collisions, these very severe collisions on rural roads. But our best advice is do everything you can to avoid that collision in the first place, because if you are in a collision, especially if someone is hurt or very seriously injured and it's a life-threatening situation, when the farther you are from a major center, a tertiary hospital that can get you that help, STARS is there, and they are angels coming out of the sky, really, but they can't perform miracles. And the other thing is, if you're on a quiet country road, it might be some time before you're even discovered, and somebody might not be able to call help for you if you're in a position where you're incapacitated and unable to do it for yourself. So these are yet another reason, I would say, that it's really important to be careful, drive safe, drive sober, drive undistracted, watch your speed, and buckle up on rural roads.
Oh, perfect. Once again, thank you so much for joining me today, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Shelby.